Two guys and a gal talking about movies. Two guys and a gal talking about movies. Two guys and a gal, they're talking about movies. And you know they are really groovy. Two guys and a gal talking about movies. Two guys and a gal talking about movies. Two guys and a gal, they're talking about movies. And we know they are really groovy.
Hello, everyone. I'm Renee, the girl on Two Guys and a Gal talking about movies. Tonight, it's with both sorrow and admiration that we gather together to pay tribute to the legendary actor Gene Hackman. His recent passing has left a profound void in the world of cinema and in our culture, and we honor his memory by reflecting on the indelible mark he left on the film industry. From his breakthrough performances to his unforgettable roles in iconic movies, Hackman's talent and versatility remain an inspiration for generations to come. He portrayed a common man under uncommon circumstances, the best that anyone ever has or ever could. He was relatable. The average person could look at his characters and his portrayals and say, wow, I know somebody like that. This seems like a real person. So join us tonight as we celebrate the life and legacy of this remarkable artist whose work will continue to captivate artists and audiences for years to come. Gene Hackman. So Manny Zamora is here. Rory, the man of 1,000,000,002 voices, is here, and we're going to talk about Gene Hackman. I wish under better circumstances, but here we are.
I want to give another kind of tribute to another actor named Bruce Glover, who passed away on the 12th. And he was a great actor, a great character actor, and Crispin Glover's dad. And we were lucky enough to interview him a couple of years ago and get a 2-hour phone interview with him on Cosmos. And he was a really sweet guy, very fun-loving guy. And I just wanted to, I don't want to take anything away from Gene Hackman, but I just thought it would be nice if we could give a little tribute, a little honor to him as well.
Yeah.
That's great. I remember that. And gosh, it feels like sometimes it feels like we've been having inspirational person and hero, leaving this planet back to back to back. It just feels that way. There are some eras where that happens more than others. It's probably a statistical crapshoot, but that's just kind of what it feels like.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing that up. We have lost a number of artists already this year.
Yeah.
And the Gene Hackman one was also, I think, impacted and aggravated more by the fact that his wife also died, their dog also died. And it was kind of, for a while, mysterious circumstances, so there was a mysterious element and sort of a feeling of a man of this caliber and iconic stature should have not gone in that way. I mean, I think that's what a lot of us are responding to. And he was 95, I think, right? But really, does that mean that it's any less of a loss, particularly the way that it happened? No, I don't believe so at all. So, and it was Manny, it was your idea to do Gene Hackman, correct? At this time?
Yes.
Were you planning on doing him anyways at some point? Probably.
He's
such a legend. We probably would have gotten there, right?
Yeah, he was always high on my list of people that I wanted to cover.
Mm-hmm.
It just turned out that this was, unfortunately, due to circumstances, I sort of moved him up on the list. And speaking of, it's interesting. We were speaking of Bruce Glover, that we had just been talking about James Bond last Thursday, and of course we mentioned his character in
Diamonds Are Forever.
In Diamonds Are Forever. Thank you. I was blanking out his name. He was one of the two sort of villainous characters in that movie. And then for him to just, pass away all of a sudden, not a week later, it's like, oh man,
Yeah.
yeah, the timing couldn't be more awful. But yes, wonderful actor, and he will be missed as well. But getting back to Gene Hackman, I don't know if there's anything more I can add after that beautiful, almost eulogy that you gave there, Renee, for your introduction. That was lovely. Oh my God, I was starting to tear up a little bit listening to that. So thank you for that. That was wonderful. So I'm not even going to touch it. I'm just going to say Gene Hackman was one of those actors that was part of
Her
my
openings are always
growing up.
delightful.
Yeah, he was just there. It's like movie after movie. There was Gene Hackman. Doing just a wonderful job, as Renee said. Um, Very relatable performances, even when he was playing, villains. There was still something about his portrayal that was so charming and so just endearing in an odd way. And of
He
course,
played
when
a
he was playing,
great villain, and we're going to talk about that a little later.
oh yeah,
Yeah, I think what was great is that he didn't have I talked about how he was like and that's something that's been said of him a lot. He portrays a common man under uncommon circumstances. So
hmm
he comes across as like someone that you've known before. Like I had an
hmm
uncle like that, or a cousin, or I met some guy. He doesn't stand out like he's not like a Leonardo DiCaprio where you would just like notice his
hmm
looks or something. he
right,
he sort of acts like a normal person, but then he takes on the character so perfectly
hmm
that you are relating to him and you like him, but then when he's a villain, it's very confusing.
hmm
So it's like,
yeah,
what is going on here? And
yeah,
that's, I think, why he was so versatile, because he really could fit into, I mean, he was just a great actor. He knew how to actually act. He was very,
yeah.
very different in every single role. He wasn't just doing the same thing. Like, I love Jeff Goldblum, but Jeff Goldblum is Jeff Goldblum. He's always going to be Jeff Goldblum. That's why we like him.
Right. We
Yes, it's
we
always
we
like
love
that.
Jeff
No matter
Goldblum.
what you're doing, it's like that. But Gene
Yes,
Hackman
no,
wasn't like that.
maybe.
He would morph, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's the
Well, I think
anti-Jeff Goldblum.
yeah,
Yeah.
anti Jeff Goldblum. Oh man. Uh, I think the word to describe Hackman and his acting ability is convincing. If you're going to reduce it down to one
Yeah,
word,
yeah, that's what it was.
convincing,
Yeah, natural. He's very natural and innate,
natural. Yeah,
sort of a primal actor. Yeah, and his
exactly.
body and his character were merging in a
Right.
beautiful way. Yeah,
Right.
that's right. It was harmonious. Every part of him was
There you
on
go.
board with the
There you
character.
go. Yeah. Well, Rory, why don't you start us off with your number one?
I'm going to go for the obvious one here. The Superman movies. I loved him as Lex Luthor. He'll always be Lex Luthor to me.
Mhm.
Um, you're talking about how he plays in Everyman. Oh, geez, almost dropped my popcorn.
Oh,
Surprisingly, I didn't spill any. Not that I know of. He seems so brilliant in that, and yet, we knew Gene Hackman before that movie came out in the late 70s. Well, 77, I think.
yes.
So again, yeah, he's a fantastic villain in that movie. You get his pomposity, his ego, his brilliance. It all comes through. And when the movie was being put together, Donner had to get a couple of named stars to make the movie happen, to make it work. And luckily, he got Hackman to do Lex Luthor, and he got Marlon Brando to play Jor-El, Kal-El's dad. So we won't even go into what happened, what went wrong with part two.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, look up the Donner cut. Anyway, so
Absolutely.
yeah, I love watching him in that movie and how he acts. He did not want to wear a bald cap for Lex Luthor, so they put on a bunch of ill-fitting wigs to make it look like he was wearing a wig all the time,
Mhm.
which I think is pretty brilliant.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, Superman, you can't get much better than that. I mean, it's great with Christopher Reeves and him, and Ned Beatty, and so many others, Margot Kidder.
Mhm.
Yeah. As the movies went on, they got kind of weaker and weaker and weaker until by the fifth one. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The Quest for Peace. Peace and Quiet. I don't want to see any more of these. Um,
Yeah. That was
but
bad.
even he, made the best of what he had, with those.
Mhm.
So you got to admire him for that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Yeah, Superman was my number one for a long time, but yeah, then I saw a few other movies, and it's like, yeah, but even so, yeah, I love Superman. One of the best superhero movies ever made. Great cast, and yeah, Lex Lex Hackman, and even though you could tell
See, you believe
that
it so much, you're calling him Lex.
I know exactly. See, there you go, convincing. Uh, the thing is that what really and this is and again it goes back to just his enormous talent is yes he's kind of charming as Lex Luthor and and all that and you could tell that he was playing it a little bit tongue in cheek but still he is the villain in this story and he does some really horrific things as this character
Yes.
and so you realize, oh yeah, I mean, he seems like it could be a nice guy, but he isn't. He's definitely not a nice guy. Uh, so yeah, I I I absolutely agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Uh, it may not be number one on this particular list, but it's definitely number one in my heart.
That's what I did. There were other performances that were much better.
Yeah, yeah,
But again, there's a couple on my top five list that I just enjoy those movies so much, and it's again in my heart. I just put them on the list, as the
yeah,
top five.
yeah. So all
And
right,
we'll
so
talk
mine.
about that later when we get to the honorable mentions list,
Okay. Oh, I
which
do
is
have to say,
massive.
yeah. Well, that's the thing I was going to mention at the beginning was this really was one of the hardest lists that I ever had to cobble together because there was so many movies.
I couldn't keep it
I
down to 10. I mean, I
yeah
have on my top five list, I have a double listing
yeah
for number
yeah.
three.
Okay.
And on the honorable mentions list, oh my God, there's so many. And then I have like
Yeah
two or
yeah
three dishonorable mentions.
okay yeah. Well, I
So it's a
mean,
long list.
yeah, I may not even go through mine because we probably have the same ones. Or we'll see. All right, so my number one is actually, and I just rewatched it again recently, and it just I was like, oh man, it just shot up to my number one uh, uh, today. As a matter of fact, even though I had a different number one, so sorry, Renee, I have to switch it up on you. So my number one is Hoosiers,
Oh,
which is
wow, Hoosiers. Oh my gosh. All right. Okay.
you like that one?
I do. I do. I do. I do. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's so iconic too.
Yeah, it's arguably one of the best sports movies ever made.
Right.
But I watched it and I thought, no, this almost has to be my number one. His performance as the coach in this little Arizona town, or not Arizona, it's little Indiana town, and his he has this past and all this, and everybody's not sure
Hmm.
about him. He has to prove himself, and he's coming in, and he's got just this little team that he has to whip into shape, and he succeeds in turning them into champions. Yeah, it's corny. Yeah, it's corny as Kansas or Indiana. It's a feel good movie, but damn, it is so good. Beautifully, just beautifully shot. Hackman's performance here, talk about convincing, and again, talk about, you just love this guy from the beginning, and you root for him, and yeah, there's not a lot of depth to the movie, there's not a lot of big dramatic moments, and but I love the way that they concentrate on his character. uh uh, I love even Barbara Hershey's character, who was kind of very kind of hostile toward him at the beginning. But again, he wins her over
He has to win everybody
eventually.
over, yeah, in the movie. I
Yeah, he
mean,
just
that's
wins
the whole
everybody
thing.
over.
Yeah.
A wonderful performance from Dennis Hopper as the town drunk. Who's sort of the epitome of what Barbara Hershey's character was saying about people who are sort of trying to relive their glory days and who just never left town, kind of got stuck there and all that. But it's just, yeah, it's a feel good movie, but there's such good performances all the way around, and especially from Hackman. And I really enjoyed this movie.
At the time that came out, there was a lot of movies that were basically the same kind of thing, like high school and college sports kind of movies.
Yeah,
And the one that set this one above the rest was that Hackman and his performance. There's no doubt. He's great as a coach. He had training when he did Downhill Racer, which, oh my God, I really want to put Downhill Racer on my top 5 list, because I actually only watched it for the first time a couple of days ago, and I was like blown away. I was like, I'm not going to like this movie. I'm going to hate this movie. And then, wow, just him and Redford. But again, we'll talk about that when we get to it on the honorable mention list. But he plays a coach in that. And again, he's a great coach. You get it from the moment he steps on screen, or actually in Downhill Racer, he's kind of a jerk at the beginning of the film, or you think he's a jerk, but really, yeah, by the end of the movie, you're like, okay, I know why he did all that now. So, that's Hackman. That's how he does it. Oh no, I scared Renee off. Which is a great movie. It really is. It's in my top. It's high on my honorable mention list. There are just so many good performances. Like you said, this is a really tough list for us.
Yeah. All right. So what's your number 2 then?
My number 2 is The French Connection.
Okay.
Again, I went back and forth with French Connection as number 1 and Superman as number 1, and
me too.
And it's a really good movie. A little dated now, but again, the performances all the way around just really good. And Hackman, the real Popeye Egan was actually on set for that movie. So he basically coached him through the whole movie on what to do and how to do it, and he got an Academy Award for it. So yeah.
Yep.
It should be at the top of my list, but Lex Luthor.
I know. Lex Luthor. Yeah.
I love Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
I love to hate Lex Luthor. So
the greatest criminal mind. Yeah.
French Connection, really good movie. Second one, not so good.
Oh yeah. Well, I think of the Salkinds.
Second one, not so good.
Yeah. I think if the Salkinds had left Donner alone, let him do the movie that he wanted to do, it would have been fine. No, they.
I was talking about The French Connection.
the French Connection. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant Superman. Yeah. The sequel. Yeah. Not as good. Okay. Well, my number 2 is Unforgiven.
Okay.
Again,
that is tied at number 3 for me with another movie.
Okay. Now Hackman did a number of westerns during his career, as a lot of actors of his generation did. And I actually have 2 on my top 5. This one being one of them. And again, we talk
The
about
other one
his
was
ability.
A Quick and the Dead.
Actually, no, it isn't.
Really? Wow.
No. Although I
That's what
do like that
my
movie.
number 3 is Quick and the Dead and Unforgiven.
Okay.
He's basically playing the same character. It's just 2 different movies.
Yeah. Quick and the Dead. See, you got me talking about Quick and the Dead. Unforgiven, of course, directed and starring Clint Eastwood. And Hackman
Not like
plays
that
an
anymore.
absolute, he plays an absolute villain in this one. But again, it's one of those cases where you're like, oh man, I hate this guy. But on the other hand, no, there's no other hand. You just hate this guy. He's ruthless. He's cruel.
Building a house.
Yeah, he's vindictive. He's just an overall terrible person. And Hackman, of course, just brings that to life. And what he does to Richard Harris's character, what he does to Morgan Freeman's character. You're really looking forward to Clint Eastwood dishing out some frontier justice on him, But again, that's the power of acting. That's the power of Hackman's acting, especially in this movie. And I figured this one has to rank high, and it definitely ranked high on my list. So that's my number 2.
Did he get the Academy Award for that one for Best Supporting Actor?
I don't remember.
I know he got 2 Academy Awards.
Yeah.
And I want to say that one took a lot of awards.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I'm not sure about that, but I'm sure somebody will look it up. All right, so that was my number 2. What was your number 3?
The Quick and the Dead and Unforgiven.
Right. Yeah.
The Quick and the Dead, Sam Raimi film, beautifully shot movie, awesome characters, just full, over brimming with interesting characters. Hackman is the kind of head of a town, and he's just evil, again, and it's the same character. He runs the town. He's evil beyond, normal evil measures. DiCaprio is in The Quick and the Dead as his son, and he gets into that shooting contest where they have to wound each other, and eventually it becomes, thanks to Hackman, it becomes you got to kill each other, and he's just despicable in both movies. Again, he's degrading. He just looks down at other characters and denigrates them and makes them feel small. Everything he does, you just like, oh my God, he's so bad. But again, he still has that Gene Hackman charm. It's
exactly.
Really is.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what I said. It's very confusing because you still feel like you know him and you're friends with him and you like him and you just had him over for dinner, and then he's doing like really like horrible, evil things, and you're like, no, not you. You would never do this. And so I think that's one of the reasons it's so effective, though, because the trauma stays with you because you feel like it feels like you're being betrayed, and there's like a muscle memory there where you're sort of trauma bonded to Gene Hackman. It's kind of like a horrible trick, but because he is such a great guy. And but I also think, Michael Emerson, Tony Shalhoub, people like that, who are actually nice guys, but are really good at playing really creepy bad guys. I think that's one of the reasons they're so good at it, though, because they can divorce themselves and just play with the role because it's not close to home. So they can actually go hog wild and embrace the darkness because in reality, they don't have trauma in those areas. So I think it's because he's so trustworthy. That would be my guess, is that's why he really excelled in these areas. And we end up still liking him. after these characters. And also it's because he had a lot of work too. So when we think of Gene Hackman, it's hard to just think, I know Lex, but basically we're thinking of multiple roles. There's so many that he excelled at and that he's known for over the breadth of his career, that I think he was never really pigeonholed. He just sort of he was able to run the gamut of it. And so it was hard to maybe sum him up in just one role. But certainly the westerns, I love it when he was the head of the town, Quick and the Dead. Yeah.
No.
Sorry, yeah, I was just gonna say he was so awful. And but I do want to say Trilby Post just gave a shout out to Mississippi Burning. I wonder if the guys are gonna get there. We haven't gotten there yet. Alana, Tony Shalhoub, yeah, I'm not gonna say. Tony Shalhoub, shout out, yes, always. And Royal Tannenbaum.
She loves the Shalhoub.
Comes up. Yeah. Well, I don't love the Shalhoub, but I think
yes, you do.
There's someone on the network that loves the Shalhoub.
You love the Shalhoub.
I do love the Shalhoub.
Love the Shalhoub.
I do love the Shalhoub. I really do. He's my favorite actor. Yeah, he is. Definitely. But Gene Hackman is a close 10th, probably. He's about my 10th. There you go. Wes Anderson. Yes, I do too. Yes, Alana.
Yeah.
Love you, Alana.
Love you, Alana.
Okay, so back to the list.
All right. I think
it's Manny's turn now.
Right. My number 3 is Superman. Because for everything that the boy said, Gene Hackman.
Yeah, what he said.
Yeah, what he said. Playing Lex Luthor, one of the most iconic supervillains in comic book history. And yeah, he didn't want to wear the ball cap. He only, at the very end of the movie, he once he's been arrested and captured, he pulls off the wig,
that was the only time. Yeah.
And that's the only time.
You got him to do it once.
Yeah. And of course, just you're when you're top billed over the star of the movie, that
star billing over the Superman guy.
Exactly. But for me, Superman, the pairing of Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder as Superman, Clark Kent, and Lois Lane have never been topped. None of the other pairings for me even come close to those two, both in chemistry, both in acting, both. And there's been some pretty good ones over the years, but for me, they're the epitome of what Superman and what Lois Lane should be portrayed as. But that's, I don't know, maybe that's just me. But I also want to give a shout out to Valerie Perrine, who played Lex's his
Taskmaster.
Miss Tessmacher. Exactly. She was lovely in that. Ned Beatty, you mentioned him. Mr. Luthor. Great performance. And so yeah. And like I said, his supervillainy, again, we kind of talked him to death, but yeah, he's so charming and so approachable. I'm talking about Hackman himself, but his character, when he plays a villain, he is all in, and no matter how tongue-in-cheek he plays the villain, or especially in this case, there's always that really dangerous edge about it. This guy will kill you in a heartbeat. Anybody who would shove a guy into an oncoming subway train or plan to blow up half of California just to have a piece of real estate or own a big chunk of real estate. Yeah, not a nice guy. So, and yeah, he plays a villain that you definitely want to see defeated by the hero. So, original Superman movie was 1978. You are correct, Lana. Absolutely. But,
was it 78? I thought it was 77.
No, 77 was Star Wars, I believe.
Star Wars, yeah.
78.
And Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah.
Okay. If you
So
say
that was
so.
my number 3.
All right. My number 4, Mississippi Burning.
There you go. A little bit of chill be happy.
Mississippi Burning. I remember it being very powerful when I first saw it when it was in the theaters, and I saw it again this past weekend. And Defoe does a great job, but you feel the tension. You feel what Hackman's character is going through because he's a Southern character, and he's having to deal with both sides. And again, it's just like why.
Uh-oh.
That usually happens when he gets a phone call.
Struggle. Can you hear
There
me?
he goes. He came back.
Yeah, I get a phone call. Sorry. Watch him go through those inner struggles during the movie. Yeah, it's like candy, watching him perform. It's really, really good.
Mhm.
Yummy, yummy. And then you've got all these other great character actors, Steve Kablowski, Tublowski, Stephen Toblowski, Arlie Ermy, Gaylord Sartain. Who's the guy that does Chucky?
Brad Dourif.
Brad Dourif. Yeah, just really, really good movie and a good cast.
Mm-hmm.
Frances McDormand has just got a wonderful cast. And when it resolves, it's like kind of tragic for everybody, but what's right is right, and what's done is done, and there it is, and what was supposed to happen did happen. Unfortunately, a lot of the characters suffer because of it, but there it is. Sometimes you got to give for the greater good.
Yeah.
So very well written movie, very well directed movie, very well acted movie, and again, Hackman is in the center of all of it, holding it all together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And Lana wanted to give a shout out to her buddy Willem Dafoe. So there you go.
That was one of Dafoe's first mainstream. I mean, he had done To Live and Die in L.A. I think that Platoon came later.
Yeah.
I want to say that this was between the two, and this was one of the ones that put him on the map.
Mm-hmm.
Made him a Hollywood. I won't say A-lister, but he was definitely high up on the lists.
A-.
B plus.
A B+. Yeah.
And now he's an A-lister. So
yeah.
I knew them way back when.
Aw. They were just little tykes.
The worm is definitely turned for you. Follow the shiver down your cold spine. Sorry, doing Willem Dafoe lines now.
Oh, we may have to do a show on Dafoe later. We'll probably have Alana on the show.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Overdue.
Okay. Good. Yeah, absolutely. Great movie. Yeah, good choice. All right. Well, my number 4 is
Alana, you available next week? I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Number 4.
My number 4 is The French Connection.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, no, this one has to be on the list. And again, like you, I had troubles. Like it was number 1 for a while. Then Superman was number 1 for a while. Then I saw Hoosiers. And but
Hoosiers changed the game.
Hoosiers changed the game. Yeah. But yeah, based on a true story, or true events. And yes, Eddie Egan was a technical advisor, and he had a small role in the movie as well. But the character that Hackman plays is Popeye Doyle, and directed by William Friedkin. And one of the most thrilling car chases in cinema history. I mean, really talk about a game changer. Putting the camera right in the front of the car and just
Yeah.
having Hackman just drive like a maniac under this L, chasing the bad guy or one of the bad guys. Just heart pound. I remember I saw this one in the theaters, and oh my god, my heart stopped watching this car chase. I'm like, I've never seen anything like it.
Bullet
So,
did it first, but
Bullet
yes,
did it. Oh, Bullet did
it
a
was a great
great. But
it was a great car chase. It was.
so yeah, of course
And we
this
were
one like
talking about you were talking about Friedkin.
mhm,
Yes, To Live and Die in L.A., which also had Willem Dafoe in it.
right, yeah,
Fantastic car chase in it.
yeah.
You know, he's really good at that.
Yeah, so all right,
Never saw French Connection. Yes, you should definitely see it.
yes,
It's a little dated now, but yeah, you should definitely see it.
yeah. It's definitely a '70s movie,
Yeah.
and so you got to give it that. But and it has one of those what I call a '70s ending, which means it just kind of stops. It just kind of ends.
They're trying to set up the sequel.
Yeah, I guess.
Typical
But,
Hollywood.
yeah,
And of course, the sequel was wah, wah, wah.
yeah. But watch The French Connection. I think you'll enjoy that. If you like a good crime drama and you love Gene Hackman, it's definitely worth a watch. And Roy Scheider as well. That we
Yes.
shouldn't slight him playing
Yes.
his partner. He was very good in that as well. So
And because of
right,
that movie, he did the 7-Ups,
right, exactly, yeah,
which kind of put him on a higher caliber of
yeah,
actor at that time.
yeah. And then Spielberg booked him for
And then
Jaws,
Jaws
which
too.
really put him on the star train. So all right, so where are we? Are we at your number 4?
Number 5.
Number 5. Okay.
And it's a guilty pleasure, but I had to put it on the top 5 list, The Poseidon Adventure.
Okay.
I just like Jolly Winters. I'm a good swimmer. I'm a good swimmer. Thrown together a fantastic cast. It's Irwin Allen, it's disaster schlocky schlicky schlock, but
Mhm.
Hackman is just great in it. And, him butting heads with Ernest Borgnine and trying to save Roddy McDowell and, and pushing along Eddie Albert. Come on, guys, old guys, get moving. It's really a fun movie in a bad way.
Mhm.
And Hackman again is the center of it all, holding it all together.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been half as good if Hackman wasn't who he was in the film.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I know it should have been on the honorable mention list, but I couldn't help it.
Well, it's definitely on mine. And
When you
yeah,
think Gene Hackman, you think of Poseidon Adventure.
you think of a side adventure, exactly. Yeah. And Ernest, yeah, and again, a great cast. It's an all-star cast.
Hmm.
Like Roddy McDowell, one of his early roles. Ernest Borgnine, Stella Stevens, Shelley Winters, mentioned her. Red Buttons,
Yeah,
Carol Lindley. Oh my God,
he finally got it,
on
didn't
and
he?
on.
But it was upside down.
Yeah.
Leslie Nielsen is the captain.
Leslie Nielsen, yeah, when
Uh,
he was still doing
when
serious
he was still
roles.
doing serious dramatic roles, he wasn't doing comedy.
Yeah.
Just all kinds of really good character actors played, small bit parts, cameos, and stuff in that film. It was the
Mhm.
same with the Towering Inferno and with the
Yeah,
airplane movies. You don't see anybody for more than 10 minutes probably in the movie, but
exactly. Yeah.
Stella Stevens, Carol Lindley,
Hmm.
We mentioned not Jack Albert. Yeah, Jack Albertson.
Yeah, Jack Albertson. Yeah.
And Shelley Winters.
And your wonderful impression of her.
We've done Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
We're so sorry. We've done Wes Anderson already, Alana.
And you were there.
Was she?
Yeah. Yeah. She
Oh,
came on. She came on and did the show with us specifically because it was Wes Anderson.
okay.
But William Dafoe, definitely. He's maybe
But
not next
yeah, we're
week,
gonna do
but
William Dafoe.
he's on the list. All right. So my number 5 is another Western, one of his 70s Westerns, and maybe not one of his better known ones, and it's Bite the Bullet.
Yeah, I couldn't
Uh,
get that this week. I tried.
oh, okay.
I couldn't get it.
Uh, and this is it has this really simple premise. It's basically there's this 700-mile horse race that's being sponsored by this newspaper, and Hackman is one of the contestants. Originally, he wasn't. He was going to be like bringing this horse to this other rider, but eventually he decides, no, I'm gonna be part of this race, and it's him. James Coburn is in this movie. Candice Bergen and Dabney Coleman has a part in this. Jan Michael Vincent, and of course Ben Johnson, who I think by law had to be in every Western in the 60s and 70s. I think there was a law that he had to be in there somewhere. He
would
plays.
definitely liked him in westerns. That's for sure.
Yeah, he just had that natural kind of. You believed him as a cowboy, and I think he may have been a cowboy at some point.
Mm.
But a lot of the movies is about this race and all the people in it. It kind of switches towards in like the last third of the movie. There's a prison break or not a prison break, but some people escaping from a chain gang that become kind of have the give it a little bit more of an action. I mean, there's action throughout the movie, but it kind of changes the tone of the movie a little bit.
We did a Coen Brothers. Said we should do Frances McDormand.
Yeah,
we did the Coen
Coen
Brothers.
Yeah,
She's in everything of theirs.
I know, and a lot of other movies as well, but mainly the Coens. Yeah, I think she was married or is married to one of them. Wasn't she? Isn't she?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So that was my number 5. If you haven't seen this movie, look it up, find it somewhere. It's probably hard to find on streaming, but it's definitely worth searching for. Hackman plays it. It's early 20th century. It's like 1906, I believe. And what else do I wanted to say? Oh, he plays a ex cavalryman. He was one of the Rough Riders with Teddy Roosevelt, and he always has a great backstory. So he has some ghosts in his past, and just another great Hackman performance. So,
all right.
And so the movie that was my number 5 kind of went down into my honorable mentions, and we'll talk about that one here in a minute.
Okay.
So, all right, so let's start with your honorable mentions. All 20 of them.
I've got a lot of them. Yes. We got to mention Bonnie and Clyde because that's the one that really gave him his first real shot in Hollywood films.
Right.
He is delightful as Clyde Barrow's brother Buck in that telling the cow joke, and also a really funny little cameo by Gene Wilder in the film.
Yeah.
Where they take them into the car, or they take their car and drive with them.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's a classic gangster movie, and Hackman is a big part of it. Him and Estelle Parsons, who plays his wife. Downhill Racer, is a ski movie, and you look at it, and when first glance you're like, I'm not going to like this, I said that earlier. I was like, oh, geez, I'm going to hate this movie. And I saw that it came out the year before on Her Majesty's Secret Service. So I'm thinking maybe at that time that was a big thing. And that's what they decided to do with the Bond film. Okay, we'll make exciting ski chases. You know, but really, what makes the movie work, it's not just that these are Olympic skiers and you get to see behind the scenes what they're trying to go through to get to the Olympics and to win. But again, you see the dynamics, the drama between the characters. And Dabney Coleman is one of the other coaches. It's got a really good cast. Downhill Racers, really, it's Choice Hackman. We haven't mentioned The Conversation.
Right.
We did mention on an earlier show, we were talking Francis Ford Coppola, who directed it. That's a nice, creepy thriller where he's bugging people's abodes and finds out, about a murder, supposedly, and some fooling around, and nothing really turns out to be what it seems. Was very surprised by Marooned. I hadn't seen it in years. And I had always thought that the ending of it, all of the astronauts died. So I was feeling really bad because Hackman was the one that was screwing up. He's the middle astronaut in it. Richard Crenna. Who's the third astronaut in that?
Oh.
It was Richard Crenna, Gene Hackman, and
oh man.
Oh hell.
Is it Hal Holbrook? No.
No. And Gregory Peck is on the ground. He's the head of the mission control. And it's basically Apollo 13 before Apollo 13 happened. Because they have to rescue him in outer space. And Crenna ends up dying, I think. They lose him.
Crenna, yeah.
But they see him the other two. They save the other two. They save Hackman and they save the other one. And God, it's just killing me. I can't remember. Oh, it was James Franciscus.
Right.
And again, all of the wives of the astronauts are all like top female stars of the time. Nancy Kovac, Marriott Hartley. It's just a really, really good movie. And again, a happier ending than I remembered. I have to give a nod to Young Frankenstein, him playing the blind man in Young Frankenstein. He asked Mel Brooks if he could do it. Yeah. And Mel Brooks goes, yeah, I got just the character for you. And he took it and ran with it and just was so delightful. I was going to make espresso. Ad-libbed line.
Yeah.
Hoosiers, definitely worth a look. Crimson Tide, we talked about our earlier show. Really good dramatic performance. The Birdcage, him as Senator Keeley, so wonderful, just so funny. Having to deal with Robin Williams and Nathan Lane and Hank Azaria and their chicanery as a gay troupe that his daughter is becoming involved in. And then Heartbreakers, which was one of his last films. He plays a guy who's the head of a tobacco company, and he's got horrible stained teeth. That's like the ongoing gag of the film, is he just looks hideous. And Sigourney Weaver she's a con woman. Her and oh gosh, who's the other girl? She was real big at the Jennifer Love Hewitt was real big at the time, but I guess I don't know if she retired from acting or just kind of faded away, but you don't see her much anymore. And really funny comedy, and give it a chance. Okay. Should I hold off on my dishonorable mentions?
Yeah. Let me go through. You pretty much mentioned most of my list. We mentioned Royal Tenenbaums.
Yes.
The Conversation, Crimson Tide, Bonnie and Clyde. Now, there's a couple that you didn't mention that are on my list. One is Prime Cut.
Okay, haven't seen it.
Although this is more of a Lee Marvin movie. Hackman, again, playing a villain. He plays the owner of a meatpacking plant that owes some money to the Chicago mob, and Lee Marvin he's basically there to collect, and and then drama ensues. Uh,
As you would
this is
expect.
as one would expect. There is I'm not sure if it's her debut role, but Sissy Spacek
Oh,
has a very young Sissy Spacek has a role in this movie. Notably, she's nude in part of this movie. Uh, Apropos of nothing. But anyway, I do wish Hackman's character had been a little bit more prominent in this movie, but it's still a great performance from him, as one would expect. And the other one is a movie called Scarecrow with him and Al Pacino,
yeah.
which is it is literally a road trip movie.
Mm.
These two guys just happen to meet on the road as they're hitchhiking. They both have places that they want to go to and a destination, and it's basically just what happens to them as they go on this road trip. Some good stuff, some bad stuff. You mentioned Estelle Parsons. She has a little cameo in this movie.
Mm.
Uh, and and Al Pacino being Al Pacino, just
Gino!
exactly, just really trying to hog the limelight here, and uh, I don't know how much of it was ad libbed, but he has some just these wild, crazy moments, and Hackman just being Hackman, playing this very kind of very angry character, this former boxer who has this
He does
plan.
angry well.
He does very angry very well. Uh, but it's an interesting movie, and like I said, it's a very 70s movie because it just kind of
Mm.
ends. You're like, that's it? That what happens? But anyway, it's interesting. If you just go in watching it for Hackman and Al Pacino's performance, it's worth a watch, despite that. So those were all my honorable mentions. So, and plus all the
Okay.
ones that you mentioned. Um, I mean, there's a ton of other movies that we could probably bring up, but
Yes. There was a lot, especially more recently, which most of what I've seen is the past. Is
yeah,
Hackman like in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
yeah,
But he
and that was
actually
his
did a lot
heyday.
in the 90s as well.
Yeah, yeah, he did, yeah. We mentioned Runaway Jury earlier. Another great performance from him as the sort of jury fixer. Uh, Bat 21, Under Fire, a lot of war movies that he did. Bridge Too Far. Anyway, we could be here all night talking Gene Hackman. So,
Right.
what are your dishonorable mentions then?
All right. Uncommon Valor, which is a ridiculously bad movie about guys trying to rescue people who are in Vietnam.
Hmm.
This was at the height of the Stallone and uh,
Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris, Golan Globus pictures kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
So naturally, cast Gene Hackman as the lead.
There you
They're
go.
going for a different kind of take on the rescue thing. With okay, he's a war veteran, he's a colonel, and again, it's just really weird and really bad. Randall Tex Cobb is in it. Um, who's the comedian that ended up getting into dramatic films and Doll Man and stuff like that?
Oh,
The name is right on the tip of my tongue.
yeah, yeah.
Tim Thomerson. Tim Thomerson
Tim Thomerson,
plays the
right?
pilot, and he's really weird in it. And yeah, I don't recommend it. It's just kind of silly. And Loose Cannons with him and Dan Aykroyd. It's just kind of an excuse for Aykroyd to kind of be really super silly, and a lot of the comedy falls flat. Hackman is actually funnier in it playing the straight man than Dan Aykroyd doing the silly guy who evidently has had some kind of traumatic past experience, and they're trying to get him back into the FBI or something like that. Anyway, it's kind of a very silly movie, and it's you're just going to come out of it going, "Wow, I wasted an hour and a half of my life on that." And I've mentioned this movie maybe a dozen times on our show. No Way Out, a Kevin Costner film, and you know why I hate the movie is because they get you rooting for the Kevin Costner throughout the movie, and then at the end, it turns out, he's a Russian spy, a Russian agent who's forgotten who he is, and it's just a shitty ass ending. I hate that fucking ending of that movie. Hackman is good in it, but yeah. So those are my three dishonorable mentions.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, Lalana, that I didn't mention Royal Tenenbaums. I wanted to. It should have been on my honorable mention list, high on my honorable mention list. Really good performance by him. Very funny, tongue-in-cheek performance.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, there you go. That's our show for tonight. Thank you. Get that. No, wait.
You didn't have any dishonorable mentions.
I did not.
Okay. All this stuff was good.
Well, his performances were
next week, or
I was going to do an actress. So actually, the next person on my list was Lauren Bacall.
Okay.
Oh, wow. That's great. Yeah. I just read her memoir not too long ago. So,
Yeah.
all right.
We talked about Humphrey Bogart, and you can't do Bogey without Bacall. I mean, she's right there. So Lauren Bacall, going back to the classics, and then we'll bring it back, bring back to the present. So
they broke my arm. It's one of her last lines on The Sopranos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another
one.
Bag.
Long career. Yeah. So that should be fun. That should be interesting. So what's coming up later in the week?
We got Roland Pruitt's Kaiju Review. They're going to do Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. Then they're going to take a break on Thursday. I'm moving to a new home this weekend, so there will be no Roland next week. And then hopefully we'll come back with a James Bond show next Thursday where we talk about Rittenhouse autograph cards, which I have many. Many. And maybe a few Upper Deck Black Diamond.
Ooh.
There's a sparkly signature. Sparkly.
Ooh.
But that show is actually a later show, the Black Diamond show. And we'll talk about those in the near future on Thursdays when we come back.
All right. So
Sandy D is doing her show, No Icing, on Thursday. I will not be part of it, but to replace me, she has got comedian Eddie Brill as her co-host. So that should be a really good show.
There you go. There you go.
So I think I'm going to get bumped out of being her favorite co-host.
I don't believe that. You're everybody's favorite co-host, Rory.
Nice of you to say that. Very sweet of you.
And you're mine anyway. So anyway, all right. So next week, Lauren Bacall on this show. Roland Pruitt's Kaiju Review tomorrow. With King Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. Is our favorite guest George going to be on?
We're going to have two guests with us. George Morgan from Japan, and Kaiju Combat is also going to be part of the show. So
excellent. All
I
right.
was
Oh,
supposed to drop
and
it in
Lana.
this afternoon, and I'll drop it tonight, and there'll be ads tomorrow, and you can see. We're gonna have a lot of
Yeah.
fun with that one. That's a fun
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Can we see that last message from Lana, from Alana? She said, "That's okay. We're going to talk about crime soon." Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So be on the lookout for that. And as always, all our shows are archived on our Facebook, on our YouTube page.
YouTube. Yeah.
So if you missed the live show, look for us on YouTube. Both this show, the Roland Pruitt Kaiju Review Show, past episodes of the Big Monster Briefing Room are available. And so there is a universe of entertainment waiting for you on YouTube and the Cosmos Creative TV network. So until next week, take care, and we'll see you then. Thanks for watching this episode of Two Guys and Sometimes a Gal Talking About Movies. Be sure to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell to get future episodes.